Hello, everyone. A warm good afternoon. I can see a lot of students joining us, so we will wait for a minute to start so that whoever wants to join in or having technical issues, so that we can just hold on for a minute more for them. Right. So, a warm good afternoon to everyone. I am Abhishek, and I am the recruitment advisor supporting Queen Mary University of London's recruitment and outreach in India. I'm glad to welcome you all in the panel discussion today on career deliberations in changing times in association with HR College of Commerce and Economics. I would thank HR College for agreeing to be part of the initiative, and a big thank you to Dr. Pooja Ramchandani and Dr. Chani for the continued support, and to students as well who are part of the event. To start the event formally, may I request Dr. Chandani for the welcome address to the students and the panel.
Yes, thank you, Abhishek. I must say that in the words of the Secretary General of United Nations, making peace with nature is a defining task of 21st century. And what else than a situation that we have been put into, which we have no control on. So today we would like to begin an important deliberation on the changing scenario of education, and for this, we would like to thank the Queen Mary London University. There's entire team here, for which, of course, a special thank you to Abhishek, who reached out to us during our college fair and suggested that we have a panel discussion wherein we could have inputs from industry, academia, as well as career specialists. And of course, that was the beginning of this wonderful session that we are going to be starting now. So, hoping that every one of the panelists is going to be making a wonderful contribution, and students are going to be able to decide thereafter what is the future and how they have to battle this nature. So, thank you, Abhishek. Thank you, Jaspreet, and the entire team from London. I hand this over to you to commence.
Thank you so much. I think we managed to get a great panel today, and as a moderator of the panel, I'll take great pleasure to introduce the panel now and start on to the panel discussion. So, introducing the panel, the first would be Dr. Pooja Ramchandani. Dr. Ramchandani is the principal for HR College of Commerce and Economics. In her vast academic and teaching career in business and management studies, she's been a particular favorite of students, and also wore the cap of being the head of the department for the Faculty of Commerce and Business Management at the HR College. Welcome on the panel, Dr. Ramchandani. Next, we have Ian Loughlin. Ian describes himself as a career asset manager, advising those who are investing in an important asset, their career. As a career coach, he works with postgraduates and undergrads at the Queen Mary University of London School of Business and Management, where he has been since 2017. He has more than 20 years of experience in coaching international students in business schools and universities in the UK and overseas. Welcome to the panel, Ian. Next, we have Nikhil Mathur. Nikhil is an experienced human resource professional who has demonstrated excellence in working for more than 20 years in a wide ranged organizations running into IT, telecom, hospitality, and much more. He's currently associated with Dalmia Group as head talent development and organization change, and is working on defining change management plans to improve business performance, employee productivity, and engagement. Welcome to the panel, Nikhil. Next on the panel, we have Laura Gill. Laura is a careers consultant and careers team manager at Queen Mary, where her role includes supporting students from the School of Economics and Finance and School of Business and Management. She has a decade of experience working for financial service companies in client facing and corporate social responsibility roles. Laura moved to the education sector in 2013, specializing in roles bringing students and businesses together. So, directly before Queen Mary, she was a senior consultant at a consultancy working with clients such as Barclays, Shell, etc., on careers and employability initiatives. Last but not the least, we have Dr. Chandani Bhattacharya, the Associate Professor and Director for International Initiatives at HR College. Dr. Chandani's academic journey has been through a few of the top colleges in India, and she has been one of the key people involved in planning today's session. So, welcome on the panel, Laura and Dr. Chandani. So, we will start with the session today. But before we start, somebody I can not mention, that is Andy Durbin, the Deputy Director for Internationalizing for Students at Queen Mary, who's there with us today as well. And definitely, like maybe after the panel discussion and stuff, most of you will have an opportunity just to, hear a few words from him. So thank you, Andy, to take out a little time from your busy schedule for us. So we will start on with the panel discussion, but before that, an important thing. Like as a panel discussion, we would not only give you the information, but we would like to hear from you as well. So when we say we would like to hear from you, we would also have different initiatives, okay, like audience poll, so that you get to select and give your inputs. So may I request for the first poll question to be displayed, Mishi? Well, that's the first poll question for you. So if you can click, what is your current level of education? Are you a school student? Are you an undergrad or a postgraduate student? Well, the post results say most of you are doing your undergrad currently. There are a few students who are in the final years of this school and looking for an undergrad degree, and very few of you have already, you're doing your postgraduate bits. So that, thank you for that, and we will start on with the panel discussion. The first question would be to Dr. Ramchandani. Uh, Dr. Ramchandani, as you know, like the market for management studies has been very dynamic, and there has always been an aspect of demand and supply. So when the demand of the nature of the education changes, there is a differentiation in the supply curve of it. So as the markets are dynamic and ever evolving, do you feel that management education has changed in sync with the market in the last 5 years? And if yes, then how?
Thank you, Abhishek, for this lovely question. Tell you, the I have been into education industry since last 21 years, and when we observe the changes that have happened in last 5 years have been very rapid. There have been an increase in an approach which is multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary courses. Students as well as education sector has understood the need that it's not important that you give only a sector or section of education, but students have to understand how it can relate to other courses, other sectors, so that there is a need that education sector has realized. Secondly, what I observe as a major change is, especially in India, is we offer traditional courses which are bachelors in commerce or management studies. But what we see in the recent past years, that students and the education sector also is offering not just traditional, but have allowed students to take up even professional studies together. It could be you do a chartered accountancy or an actuarial science or company secretaryship, do something on media, journalism. So we have observed that education sector is now open to doing two degrees, kind of one traditional degree and one professional degree that helps you to take up your career faster. Another thing that we education sector that we witness is an emphasis more on holistic development of a student rather than examination grades and semester end results. Holistic development in terms of skilling and entrepreneurship are the two key buzzwords that we hear a lot of time now, that skill students help students to enhance their personality and develop their personality. One of an important change that we have observed is also the new learning pedagogies have come in, and education sector has started realizing its importance. One, from passive learning to active learning. Now that necessitates to give importance to more of internship based projects learning or a project based learning. So internships and projects have started getting more and more acceptance into education rather than a one end year end exam was what was looked at. Even students have started accepting that continuous learning is one of the new is something that students are required, and it should be offered to the students. Secondly, we also observe that there is an emphasis on research, not just in quantity but in quality. The students need to work on various projects. It's necessary that they work on live projects from industry and learn in terms of experiential learning. That's the buzzword again coming up. So yes, when I see last 5 years, education sector is open. And if I see the last 1 year, 1 year has been a changing phase for all of us, where COVID happened, lockdown happened, and education sector, I think, was the first one to adapt to technology immediately, because lectures were on, examination sessions were on. And this has opened up a new discussion that yes, rather than a 20% or a 30% online, can we go completely online? These are some changes that education sector I see in last, especially last 5 years.
Thank you for that, Dr. Pooja. I think it's really good from what you said that there is a stress on active learning and stuff. So my next question would be to Jan, because as you mentioned, there's a lot on active learning. So Jan, the market situation have also changed in terms in the specifically in the last 1 year, along with change in the style of teaching and pedagogy. So, with the current worldwide situation, where there has been a major change in employment scenarios as well. So, from a life coach perspective, do you foresee any specific trend or any subject areas or skills that students should look at to increase their employability quotient? So, what is your perspective from a life coach?
Thanks, Abhishek. I think the first thing I'd say is, no two crises are the same, and this one certainly takes me back to the Great Recession of 2007 to 2009, but it's different. But what I have seen is that change is now the new norm, and students I meet, I think, are very adaptable and very resilient. I guess there are some big trends in careers which I think we are beginning to understand a little bit more. And this, what we've seen in the last year, I firmly believe is the beginning of the fourth industrial revolution. And the changes that we've seen will not just suddenly disappear overnight. We will continue to see online learning. And maybe what we're also going to see, what I'm going to see with the students, is that they want to continue to learn this way. And for their own career development, I think these changes are good for them. But I guess what I'm going to see is generally speaking, we're living longer. So longevity is important. And since we live longer, I think we're going to work longer. And if we're working longer, we're probably going to change careers more frequently. So what I'm seeing in the classroom is that, you know, postgraduate students are not simply learning for the next job, but they're probably learning for the next 3 or 4 jobs or 3 or 4 careers that they will have in a lifetime. And we're also seeing technology advancement. I think technology has changed so quickly over the last 12 months. And in that reflects the changing dynamics of jobs. So, I am seeing more and more students who are very interested in data. And I read a really nice comment in the Financial Times a few weeks ago saying data is the equivalent of oil in the 19th century. So those companies who understand data and those individuals who can manipulate the data, I think are on for a very successful career in the future. So, I am seeing changing work patterns and types of the jobs are changing. But it's interesting. I think, students are adapting very quickly to these changes.
Right. Thank you for that, Jan. So we had an academic speak about the academic perspective, then a career coach. Now going on to Nikhil for the HR perspective in that entire, completing the entire circle in that sense. So, like as an employer, like what are the skills that employers generally look at when they're hiring management graduates? Okay, are there any transferable skills, as Dr. Ramchandani mentioned, that it's more like an active learning these days. So are there any transferable skills that you look at as an HR, or is there any particular trend in employability that you foresee will be there for fresh business graduates?
Great, thanks, Abhishek. For students, there's a good news and a bad news. Okay, the good news, the bad news which talks about, it's only out, 50%, 57% of the recruiters think that the graduates, if they are hiring from the campus, are not employable. But the good news is 74% is still employable. So you are coming in the 74%, I'm assuming so. Great, guys, thank you. See, whenever we are talking about skills, which we from an HR perspective look at while hiring students, are typically, these are the major ones which I talk about. Creative problem solving. Now, a creative problem solving typically works on how a person is looking at a solution and not just keep on looking and pinpointing at the problem which he is trying to face. Because this is, this will be a little challenge here. Okay. Second, is I typically talk about is teamwork. A teamwork is where you have been working with your friends. Working into a corporate will be little different, because over there will be no friends, there will be colleagues who will be looking out for solutions together. So please remember that. And that's what we also look at. So while we are looking at, we look at your projects, we look at what kind of a work which you are doing, and how as a group you are performing in your projects, and how you're portraying it. Are you saying that I have done my projects, I have done this, there's a group which is there, but I have done it? Now, which shows more individualistic approach. While whenever we're talking about, sir, as a group, we were able to come to this kind of a conclusions, and this was an answer, helps to identify your thought process. Third, literacy and numerology. Now, don't take numerology as those numbers which you're talking about. Numerology here basically means how well you can understand the numbers. Now, today, everything is a number. Your mobile is also a number. Can you remember that? Can you remember 10 other mobile numbers? Probably not, because it's very handy in your mobile. But that's what the numbers is all talking about. Because without a number, you don't exist. In your friend's book, in your mobile, if I delete your name, it'll be only a number. Will you be able to recognize you with a number? So that's the importance of when it comes to a number. So how well you can understand number games, how you can understand how these numbers are trying, you can see it through your college days as well as your projects. Fourth, I will say confidence, an extremely important trait, and it's definitely something which you can develop in case someone is not that comfortable with that, because that's something, these are the traits which can be developed, and not this is something which is by birth. Next, I will say, is an emotional intelligence or emotional quotient. Now, how you as an individual or a candidate as an individual is able to identify a situation and give a solution, keeping in mind work ethics, personal ethics, organization ethics. Okay. Uh, Seventh, not the last one, but one of the more critical ones which I talk about is adaptability. Now, understanding the way the world has changed. A year back, I would have, or all of us would have been not been sitting on a webinar. We'd be having a face-to-face conversation. Today, all of us are most comfortable with the webinar understanding, and we can have people right from London coming and joining us, while it would have been not been practically possible earlier. That's how the complete things has changed, and all of us have got adaptable to it. A year back, I was not that comfortable doing so many web meetings, but today, 60% of meetings happen through web, and I'm very comfortable with that. So that's adaptability. And with the VUCA world, and I'm sure you would have heard this word, VUCA isn't a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Anything can happen anytime. So gone under days, this management gurus used to plan for 5 years, 10 years, and 15 years in advance. Now the advanced planning is for 1 year, 3 months, 6 months. That's it. That's it. So that's a kind of things which we look at when it comes to an individual. Few more things which is important for individual when you look at one is is does he have a strong working ethics? Because without ethics, practically not possible for a person to be working. Second is leadership qualities. And third, very, very important, I personally look at in a very important way, is an entrepreneurial mindset. Because the moment you have an entrepreneurial mindset, you will work for yourself and ensure that you work like an entrepreneur of what you are doing. That's the point about me.
Thanks a lot, Nikhil. I think that was really insightful for our audience in the different aspects and diversifying onto what are the things that are looked into, what are the skills that they can kind of adapt while they're studying. So next question on to Dr. Chandani, that, as Nikhil mentioned, that there are particular trends that are kind of students would look at learning in terms of skills and other aspects. So is there a spillover for that need onto the academic sector? Because now the entire trend of the market is having more specialized education than a generalistic one. So have you observed academically any specific trend or subject or electives or courses that students are choosing from, okay, so that they can achieve a desired career? This kind of goes on to the classic question in any management or commerce student's mind, whether they should opt for management versus an analytics versus things like an international business. So academically, how would you say that the situation is currently?
Thank you, Abhishek. I think that's a very, very relevant question. And not only this, there are several other questions which come to the mind of a child or a student who's willing to take up or pursue higher education. Some of the students deliberately have or are or maybe are tuned in such a way that the way they take up their education, they automatically move in from one level to the other. But there are always some students who are trying to look at business trends and thereafter make their choices of career. So there are two aspects or two kinds of students that we generally tend to meet as faculty, as mentors, as people who can guide them. So when you look at the students who are already decided and they already have a preset path in front of them, it's a different ballgame altogether. But it is for those students who are in that stage where they could perhaps make a difference because they are watching the trends, they are watching the business needs, and then they want to qualify into a specific career. And keeping that in mind, my observation is that even today the disciplines of business management have more takers than I would put for analytics, even though I would desire that analytics is something where you should be going, considering it will have a far-reaching, job probability in the future. But currently, as I see the students, they are more looking at, and I think this would be the difference in the generational shift. In my generation, we took jobs for a longer time, but the current generation takes or seeks jobs for a shorter duration, just the way Nikhil was mentioning that it's the VUCA world, and they, I think, perhaps have been born into this VUCA world. So they know that they have to decide quick, and the moment they finish their education, there has to be a job they're going to be getting. And that being the premise, this is a trend that we've seen. But however, as academicians, and I think other panelists would agree with me on this point, I would suggest that there should be a certain amount of academic synergy and disciplines need to interweave so that if, as Ian mentioned, that we live longer, we work longer, there should be certain possibility of me shifting from one discipline to the other seamlessly. And that's what perhaps our education should try and aim. I hope I'm able to answer some of the questions that you put forward.
Thanks a lot for your input, Dr. Chandani. So, well, it's time for the second poll for the audience. But before that, I would request the audience that while the panel is speaking, if you have questions, please post your questions in the Q&A section, and we will take that towards the end once the panel finishes the first round of interactions, and then we'll go on for the next Q&A. I would request you to now fill in the next round of audience poll questions. Well, I'll wait for a few more seconds, and yep. So our question was, as a fresher, what do you think would be most difficult for you? And I think a lot of students mentioned interview preparations. There is stress on CV building, organizational insights, and group discussions and presentations part of it as well. But what is most alarming is that a number of students, like 35%, felt it was all of the above. Okay, so my next question would be to Laura. Laura has, like career services has a big role to play in kind of guiding students and transcending from the academic stage to the learning towards a job. Okay, so if you can kindly tell us about how do students at Queen Mary benefit from the career services office?
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Well, I think what we can see from that poll, can't we, is that at any time, our students have anxieties and nerves and lack of knowledge about some of the key application steps. And job search at any time, I think, can feel daunting. But I guess if you're coming from another country in particular and you want to get off to a great start at university and then go into your target career or find out what you would like to do, it can feel, I think, particularly daunting. And as a careers service, we see ourselves, I think, very much as a partner to students on this journey, to help prepare you, our audience, for your next steps and to get into the thing that you're investing your education in to do. And I note that we have quite a lot of undergrads on this session today, but also some postgraduates and students. And the types of support that we provide at Queen Mary really can speak to all of our different audiences. So if you are somebody who is going to do a master's and then into your first job, we can provide you with advice around that. Likewise, career changers or more experienced hires, we can help you. And so how do we do that? Well, for instance, Ian and I on today's call as careers coaches are available to students for one-to-one support and guidance to talk about career strategy, to talk about career questions and concerns, to help students feel more informed about the graduate job market. Also, we have targeted and dedicated support around every stage of the application process. So, for instance, making sure that your CV is professional. We can provide one, immediately respond to you and give you a score and advice on your CV. Likewise, if you're, we had a lot of people worried about interviews. We run workshops on things like interviews. We do one-to-one support on interviews. We've got courses on interviews. So lots of things there. And also you may be wanting to build professional and soft skills with the careers service. So again, we run workshops, but we also link you up with industry specialists who come and run talks on our campus, or these days our virtual campus, giving you all the knowledge that you need about the sector that you'd like to go into. And we link you up with lots of opportunities. So for instance, at Queen Mary, we'll have a jobs board with hundreds of internships, work experience placements, graduate roles and jobs that are advertised specifically to Queen Mary students, as well as plenty of resources on other places to look. And I suppose the last thing I would say, and I suspect I might talk about this later in the talk, is that we run lots of great programs that you can take part in. So coming back to the idea that learning is now, valued to be experiential and active. And also, as Nikhil pointed out, employers are looking for confidence and emotional intelligence, along with some other skills. For instance, we have programs where you can work in teams on live projects with local and national companies that really helps you build up your CV. So that's just a few of the things. Perhaps I'll tell you more later.
Thank you, Laura, for your inputs. This makes me go on to Dr. Ramchandani, that, like a big share of management or the entire industry revolves around consumer behavior or consumer analysis. So there will be an increased focus on it, as there is, as everybody mentioned, lifestyle and job and employability changes. Okay. So are there any new initiatives at HR College that you're taking to prepare students in that regard to be more deft at the active learning that you had earlier mentioned about consumer analysis or understanding the behavior of the end consumer?
Thank you, Abhishek, for this question. We at HR College believe in a model which is reverse mentoring model, where we keep our students at the top when we are designing a curriculum or we are devising certificate programs for them. So we believe that student needs need to be kept at the beginning, at the top, and the highest importance, so that we provide them academia, extracurricular and co-curricular activities planned in that manner itself. Yes, we believe that we have to move away from chalk and talk to the smart classrooms and virtual classrooms and video conferencing lectures, so that it's a flexibility that is available to students. Learn at your own pace and learn at wherever you are, and take the education from the place you are. A very strong entrepreneurship cell and placement cell that we emphasize on, where we connect them to industry to understand the perspective of what the consumers, the markets, the economics is going around. They should learn hands-on experience by interacting with them on regular basis. And placement cell enables us. They have a wonderful program called Pulse placement cell, where a week-long soft skill and hard skill training is given to students, where we tell them how to write your resumes, how to speak, how to get into GDs, so that they are prepared for the jobs that they enter in when they pass out, or they take their education complete from our colleges. Very important aspect that we keep looking at is giving them a certificate programs into the areas that market is asking for. As you said, yes, they have to go into marketing jobs, they have to go into sales jobs, they have to go into HR jobs, which requires understanding not the consumer behavior. So how do we allow them or learn, make them learn, is basically give them these platforms interact with industry, guest speakers, and offering them digital certificate programs so that they are well versed with the current happenings and they know the basic models that work when it comes to running a business unit. To add on to this, I must tell you that our college encourages creating student bodies in college, which they run like a unit of business. An example, like an event management society will run like a business model. They will work on their budgets. They will work on the model of an event. They will come for budget setting, budget acceptance. If budget is not approved, then they have to change the budget, rework on all the resources that are available to them. So it simply teaches them how a business model works. And when they do events for the students who are their consumers, how will you persuade them? How will you encourage them to work and give them, sell them the model, the business idea that you're working on? Another important thing that we work on is very important is sensitizing students on to society, because the minute they understand what is society looking for, they understand what is society, they have to contribute back to society, they become more humble, they understand the consumer needs, the society needs, and accordingly will design the products in the near future, rather than sell what you can. It's basically you should sell what people need, what society need. So understanding and the model that it's not profit oriented, but it is more of a social responsibility oriented project that we emphasize on. So it's consumer model plus a society oriented model that we try to bring in, along with ethical values that a consumer will follow. Lastly, as we said, a very strong aspect of our college is internationalization, where we make sure that our students are allowed to get exposed. And Dr. Chandni is one of the director. She ensures that our students are connected to the academia, the industry in foreign countries, to know how different countries react to or take care of their consumers when it comes to different business models applied at different countries. So few initiatives that we take in our college to ensure that students have that focus of consumer orientation, society orientation, and with ethical orientation.
Well, thank you, Dr. Pooja, for that. It was really insightful to hear about how you have your students gaining practical exposure, um, which is can be like a synonym for different internships that they would have done in corporates. This brings me to the next question to Nikhil. That as an HR, do you is there any preference that is given to industrial exposure that students receive or smaller internships? Okay, as you mentioned initially that there are a lot of things that you look at. So is this a big criteria that you kind of stress on? And the second part of the question would be that as fresher, like most of the students in the house today, they're undergrad students who have very less work experience. So at freshers, what should they keep in mind while choosing a sector relevant internship for themselves, most of them being management students in the house?
Uh, yeah, Abhishek. In fact, internship plays a very important and critical role into a student's life because that's give him an exposure to what's the industry and the practical knowledge is talking about, what he's looking at in the book versus what's going to be implemented in the real world. It's quite different. Uh, so let me flip your question here, and I will talk about more from what a person should be looking at when he's going for internship and how it's going to be helping him to fetch a good discussion with the NHR. Uh, so it is not critical and important to do a course or do an internship which is near to your home, has been done by your uncle or as instructed by father. Please look out something which will help you to grow and develop you as an individual, and that's the most important thing. Uh, the relevance of your course versus the relevance of your internship is very critical, because that's going to give you a great exposure in terms of what exactly you will be doing or expected to do once you hit the floor. Second, what is going to be your learning when you are going for an internship. You will probably from a big names of working with a Microsoft, working with an Oracle, you're going for an internship, but your project work is so small and being done by what 30 other students that your learnings become minuscule. I will suggest to go to a mid-scale organizations and then do a more quality project. My personal preferences. Rest completely depends on you. Uh, and that course or sorry that project or internship which is more relevant to a career and not just because it's going to pay a better stipend. Don't go for a stipend. First learn, then earn. Yeah, this is the time for you to learn, not earn. So please concentrate on that. Uh, a mentor plays a very very vital role in terms of your internship. So choose your mentor well. It is again, if you have a mentor who's not from a very large organization but a great person from whom you can learn, please choose him. Your learning is going to be far bigger and greater than going to a very large organizations and doing only a mundane job. And that's coming to the part question number one. Yes, it plays a very very vital role because that's going to be defining how serious you are in terms of completing your courses and understanding your projects and internship. Secondly, it also talks about what is the kind of learnings which you have from internship. And third is how you are representing that learning into either a piece of paper or a presentation. So that becomes a very very important and vital function. That's it for me, Abhishek.
Thank you, Nikhil. I think it brings to a very important myth-breaking thing that a lot of students, I think, aim for a larger organization to work with or do their internships, or it's more like a stipend bit. But I think it is a major takeaway for students here that what they should consider is more the sectoral exposure, okay, than
That's right.
the other aspects. So this
True.
brings me to my next question to Ian. That when we speak about sector exposure, like are there any initiatives by the team at Queen Mary so that students can receive these sector exposures?
Yeah, and it was interesting to listen to what Dr. Pooja was saying about the experience they're getting in the classroom. I find, I guess, some of the key sectors that students are looking at are consulting, finance, entrepreneurialism, marketing, HR, and I know many postgraduate students I also work with come from a family business, and it's understandable that they're really interested in knowing how they can apply entrepreneurialism or consulting, either in the first few years of their career or longer term back in a family business. So what we do is try and support them in several ways, and we have something called SBM Consult, which is a program that is selective, but it allows the students to work on a consulting project for a client in a small team, and it gives them the skills that if they're interested in consulting, the skills that consulting companies are looking for. And we've recently launched, so successful as it's been, we've recently launched one which is focused on the charitable sector. So it's, I think Queen Mary is very keen to ensure that it gives a nod towards the social justice projects. And a few years ago, the postgraduate students, are very interested in establishing a venture fund. And the academics looked at this very carefully and thought that it's a good idea, but what we would like to do is to give it more of a social justice twist. So the business school has launched a social fund, which is the first fund run by students, overseen by faculty, but is investing in student-led social ventures. So, for those students who are either interested in the social side of things or the finance side of things, there's something that they can do. We're also, and I've been the judge on the Hult Prize, which is a global entrepreneurial prize, and we've been in the last couple of years successful and gone through to the regional finals. So I think all this demonstrates that the students who are interested in initiatives on campus can get fully involved in a range of initiatives.
Great. That is really insightful, Jan, because as you mentioned, the range of initiatives that students can choose from. This brings me to the next question to Dr. Chandni. That like we spoke about transferable skills, like Dr. Ramchandani spoke about it, Jan spoke about it, Nikhil spoke about it quite extensively, about the transferable skills, leaderships, be it the numeracy skills or the analytical or research aspect. So is there something that alongside studying that you also mentor at Queen Mary? How do you develop these skills in students, other than things like the smaller clubs that Dr. Ramchandani mentioned before?
Yeah, thank you, Abhishek. I think Dr. Ramchandani, having nearly given you a wide perspective of how we are pursuing that classroom related leadership orientations to students, that apart also, what we've always been aspiring for, and which makes our students perhaps one of the best in the country. Not only that, we with our very high NAC scores and our quality that the students bring forth to the different domain. In fact, even the big fours or any other would always prefer to pick up an HR student. So what we really have been successful in implementing, and that has been, if you're looking at the clubs that Dr. Ramchandani has been talking about, these have been chosen from different with different themes. So some from a nature to social to an Enactus club to something which is an NSS, which is of course required by the government. Some are Flames Club. So multiple names that confine the role of that particular club. Now, the clubs that they run, ma'am was telling you that it does run on a model where they have to pursue an entire program on their own. I think I would have given you one example of that in the college fair, where my role is only to connect with the faculty internationally, but the rest of the work is completely handled by the team, which is International Programs Committee. So, if we are trying to, because if you look at the way McKinsey said, if you do not harness the skills, their study, of course, gave you this, you're not going to get adequate salaries, and perhaps that's what draws more students. So if you can harness those skills, and secondly, if you look at the kind of skills that are required, there is going to be one skill which is going to be interpersonal skills. And thankfully, coming from, let's say, a South Bombay area and Bombay, we do have students who do score very highly on that, but there are certain students who need help in that as well. And your question was very clear that however good they are still scared of the interviews. So that came out on your panel's discussion, the question that you raised. So interpersonal skill developments happen through multiple levels. We do have things like certificate programs. We do have things where we assign work to them. They're participating in inter college programs. They are participating inter club programs. And in these areas, of course, they harness their skills. We've had pretty good performances in most of such areas where we compete. We also, because it's personal skills, we've also looked at developing languages. And over the past few years, we've been encouraged language skills to be picked up through certification programs, and that's been very successful for us. Not only that, it's been summer schools happen internationally. Students go for exchanges, so every year we do see a good amount of students who are going to LSE, they're going to the Berkeley School, different schools which have approached us over their summer school programs. That's been one of the draws which attract the students a lot. We have in the past also had King's College come into our college and host a summer school. So there have been exchanges of this case where we see international faculty in our premises to teach, as well as we've also had faculty exchanges in the past where faculty have moved to another country, taught there. Similarly, we've had international faculty teaching our college. And that these are some of the ways in which we're ensuring that the hesitation, the skilling, the neutrality in skilling comes in, and that perhaps will go a long way in them, becoming better professionals in the future. And if I may not miss out, yes, as social skills are extremely important today, and we've ensured that through our different, if you read a little about our college, you'll come across a project which is called Lenactus. Currently, they are working on providing, reusable sanitary towels to interior villages. We've in the past lighted up solar lights in the villages. The project Chirag has one at the Washington, also at a sci-fi project. So we've kind of ensured that we give the platform. Students have picked it up, and we've been very lucky to have beautiful students who've been able to work it and use it to their advantage. So I hope that really gets what you were looking for.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Chandani, for that. And I think this kind of resonates what the entire panel has been speaking about and hinting in different conversations. So as you mentioned about students getting the international exposure, so I think a lot of students come to Queen Mary every single year for different interactions, or be it their courses, be it summer schools and things of that sort. So my next question would be to Laura that, are there any challenges that you see that international students generally face when they are applying for jobs in a new country that they've either gone to study or an internship, or whatever the nature of the exchange program may be, and how does the career services help in overcoming the challenges, if there are any?
Thanks for the question. Yes, I think, there's so much to gain from studying abroad, but of course, immersing yourself into a new culture and then working there will always come with some challenges. So there's a few things I would talk about. The first thing I would say is, it's been very popular for international students to want to come to the UK, perhaps to get some work experience here, but then for many have always been very keen to stay on. And so the first challenge I would see is that there's been a time limit in the UK on securing longer term employment within the visa rules. At the moment, we are waiting for some information to be sort of finalised on a new graduate immigration route for international students, which we're expecting to mean that they can stay on in the UK for an additional 2 years, which means that because there's a lot to do on a master's. Of course, you're focusing on your academic study, but if you've been somebody that's hoping then when you finish to go straight into the job market in the UK, that's a very short amount of time to make a connection with an employer and secure the role that you want. So we are hoping that this new graduate immigration route will give those that are hoping to stay in the UK for a longer time, a bit more time to get the experience and the contacts and the things that they need to succeed. What I would say for anybody who is thinking that they, of coming to a country like the UK to study, is to just have an idea of your plan. And this is something that we can talk to students about, of course, as a career service. But it is helpful if are you working abroad to gain some short work experience to take quite quickly back to your home country or a third country, or are you looking to be sponsored in the longer term? Because depending on that decision, that's going to influence the steps you need to take while you're away and the experience that you might be looking for. Students who are sponsored and who get great jobs here, we find that the sort of mindset is a very proactive person, because in a year, you need to do a lot. So I'm suggesting that students get started straight away and they take advantage of the different kinds of support that we have. My sort of other challenge, I suppose, for international students is really getting to grips quite quickly with the recruitment processes of another country, the way things work here and the culture. And in addition to all of the support that we've sort of been mentioning from Queen Mary, there's a particular offer for international students. So for instance, 3 times a year, we put on dedicated weeks of talks and panel events and advice sessions around things like the current immigration climate, advice on the job market, sessions on how to make your CV work in the UK job market. So taking advantage of those things, I think, can be really helpful. What else? I think, another challenge can be translating the experience that you might have and your qualifications in your home country so that it's really easily understood by UK employers, because of course everybody is more familiar with what they know. So again, in our appointments, we can help you learn the language that you need to use on your CV to really kind of directly relate to employers, but also things like the panel events that we run, where you're hearing directly from UK employees. You can pick up all of those sorts of insights into what's going on in the UK job market. You can also learn from, our events and workshops, what the strengths that you have and what's really going to help you stand out. And I think something else that is key is networking. So, when you come from another country, maybe you feel like you don't really have any contacts in this country. And again, our events, but also things like the Queen Mary Network, which is a little bit like LinkedIn for the Queen Mary community, is a way that you can very quickly reach out to alumni of the university and build up your local contacts. So I think that's just a few of the things that we do that can help international students.
Thanks a lot, Laura, for that. I think that brings in the right time to have a third poll for the audience, okay, so that we get to understand their perspective as well. So as the question runs, like, which of the below skill do you think you need to improve on, okay, in order to secure a better employment for yourself? A skill that you may not be so great at this point of time, but want to improve on. So I can see the polls getting changed every single seconds. So I'll wait for a few seconds more for a few votes to come in. Well, thanks for that. And I think what most people, 22% said that they lack on thinking beyond the box and want to develop that. The same aspect goes in for the market analytics and research part of it. Whooping 24% has all of the above, where they need improvement in thinking beyond the box, leadership, analytical skills, and financial and budgeting skills as well. A small portion of the crowd felt that they have enough skills to kind of secure something great for themselves. So this will kind of make me go on to Nikhil to have an answer to a question, which is like, in the current situation where a lot of industries are hit hard and they're just waiting to jumpstart or kickstart back to the former glory. Okay, so how would you rank the skills in order from an importance based on the HR perspective? Okay, so whether you would rank leadership, marketing or thinking out of the box, organizational change management, or sustainable innovation? How would you rank these in an order of importance from an HR aspect?
Um, so, Abhishek, looking at the kind of changes which is happening in the world, I think so. Today, the most important thing is how you are changing as an organization. So, organization change management comes to lead the first, because with the change, rest everything is gonna be following. Second, once you have looked at the change, the second thing you have to most look at is the leadership. Because if your leadership is not driven by the change, then there's again a challenge, and you will not be able to sustain it. Third, will comes across is the sustainable innovation. And sustainable innovation basically means any ideas which helps your organizations to run through. And it's just about not organization, it's also about a student when he's thinking about an innovation perspective. And fourth is when you have all of it, the marketing will come and thinking beyond the box to ensure it's the product or you as a product is also marketed well.
Thank you, Nikhil. Laura, because you spoke about development of skill and how the career services kind of help in that, do you think a lot of students request you for the skill development part of it? And if they do, then what exactly are the skill development aspects that they are looking at when they are looking at an international, applying at an international market?
Mm. Yes, we do. We do. I think we get requests for skill development, but we also see in appointments that sometimes, well, speaking for myself, that students don't necessarily see the skills that they're developing and how they can apply them actually in the workplace, or how they can sell them back to an employer. So, for instance, through some of our workshops and other events and things that we run, we help students focus on their so-called soft or professional skills, or the transferable skills. But also, I think there are sort of the harder skills that employers may be seeking in lots of students' courses. So, for instance, in the School of Economics and Finance, postgraduate students can take part in a financial trading program where they're using a Bloomberg terminal. Often they don't put this on their CV, but of course it's highly relevant if they're looking for that sort of career. Likewise, Ian mentioned in the business school that there's an investment fund, but there's one for economics and finance students too, where they can put together a proposal to buy certain stocks and shares, and if their proposal's taken forward, those are purchased on their behalf, and you sort of, as students, they monitor the performance of those. Likewise, they have opportunity to do coding in certain modules. So think through, the things that we offer in the careers team, but also as sort of embedded into the academic programs, students are developing skills that the employers are looking for.
Right. Thanks, Laura. I think a lot of the second myth breaking thing I think in our panel conversations today is how they would kind of transcend or sell the soft skills when they go in for their prospective job interviews or employment opportunities. So that is something I think will be a takeaway for most of the students in the house. A quick on to the next question, Ian, that a general perspective now is that it's a very turbulent time and the job markets are quite volatile. So as a career coach, how do you deal with those insecurities?
Thanks, Abhishek. I'm really interested just to see that last poll, and particularly the leadership question, because one of the things that I teach when I'm in the classroom is that, or the importance of the leadership journey or the leadership ladder that students are on. And that is starting with maybe their domain experience or their domain expertise, which they are clearly getting from the undergraduate studies. But really what recruiters are looking for are those leadership capabilities, which is the next stage. And that comes from the experiential learning. And it also comes from the opportunities that students are able to avail themselves to within and outside of university. So I'm very keen. I know it's a turbulent time. And as I was saying earlier, it's not the first crisis and it won't be the last. And it's what we learn about ourselves in this. And I'm pretty sure that recruiters will say to candidates when they're interviewing them, what did you do during lockdown? And the good candidates will be able to say an awful lot about what they've been doing during lockdown. And those who may fall by the wayside won't have an answer for that question. So I think from this, what I'm saying is, the opportunities in these turbulent times are quite great. And just to remember that this is a journey, and what they start with is, that expertise, the domain expertise, moving through to the capabilities and the competencies. But then the important thing, and also for leadership and for success, is how do they interact with other people, the emotional quotient that was mentioned earlier by Nikhil, I think. And these are all steps that students can go through. And I think this is what I'm, as a career coach, what I'm quite keen to make sure that the coachees that I see understand and can improve and work on.
Thank you. And I think final year students who are kind of gearing up for your exam, and you may be looking ahead with the internship or work opportunity. So the question that Ian kind of mentioned, and prepare well for it. But going on with the next question to Dr. Ramchandani, that research shows that there's a large number of students who have, say, a science or a technical background, but wants to pursue management as a higher degree. What do you think are the most promising career options for such students with that specific science or a technical academic background? Also, keeping the recent market trends in mind, can you suggest any specific course which may help the students in their job quest for that particular academic group? In fact, like I've been following few chats that have been happening on the chat group while we were having this conversation, and there are few science and students as well, technical students who would opt for a management higher degree. So what would you guide them?
Thank you, Abhishek, for this very, very important question, because a lot of science and technical students look out for option, because the general perception is they can get into only medical or engineering. But when we look at our own colleges, science students have started taking up our bachelor courses. If I look at the larger demand of science students, they are looking at bachelor in management studies, which is business education. And to our surprise, they are looking for mass media as an option. So media is an option that I can think of suggesting to my students, and also management studies. So they can pursue their management studies and then look at MBA in marketing or HR or finance, because they have a background of scientific, if I say a mathematics or any. And even if they look up some courses in entrepreneurship, it will be very good, because they already have a background of science. They get into factories, they get into production. So an entrepreneurial course will also be a very good option for them. When I look at other option that they can think of is also management information system, which is coming up on a very big way. They can also look at data science as an option, do a degree in data science, which is coming up into every area that is data all about. When we talked about consumer behavior, when we talk about business, when we talk about the economy, data is something that they can work on. And it's not the technical or science education will stop them from getting into those fields. It will in fact help them to apply their scientific knowledge that they have gained into their schools or so on, and apply for a higher masters into a finance would be a very good option. General or a management studies would be a very good option from my point of view. And to add on to this, as Dr. Chandni added, that we become a cluster university now, which is a degree granting university. We have opened up science students to enroll for a BSc in yoga, which will be, some people will say yoga is something that you practice every day. Can you get a degree out of it? Yes, our cluster university is talking about offering them a performing arts degree. So science education doesn't stop you. It's opening wider horizons, that you can pick up your schooling science, but it doesn't stop you from, I think Indian education doesn't stop them to get into those degrees. So management, MIS, digital marketing, data science, could be HR marketing, could be some areas or some courses that they can look at. What I do look at in my colleges, BMS is basically a bachelor in management studies on a very high demand, and mass media, to a surprise, on a high demand from science students.
Thank you, Dr. Pooja, for that. So we will move towards the last question for the panel discussion, and then we will go on for the Q&A that a number of you kind of typed in. We also got a number of questions on Facebook. Okay, so for the last question, Dr. Chandani, like, there has been corporate social responsibility around the market for many years now. So there is corporate responsibility as an emerging study aspect for careers in, say, corporate or social development sector. Okay, what are your thoughts on it? Do you see that there is a lot of demand on those, and what will be the career aspects be like for students who may opt for CSR related study?
Thank you, Abhishek, because as we start moving with students nowadays, you will be surprised that a lot of them have started owning or starting very small startups on their own. And some of these startups are social in nature. So what we really need to enthuse these students is to be able to develop it on a larger scale, and maybe someday they'll become unicorns themselves. So it's important to understand that this career of social entrepreneurship, which I think Oxford gives for several years now. I'm not sure which other universities, of course, offer this course. Uh, there has to be a lot of attractiveness generated about the social entrepreneurship genre. Because what I find is that people would rather go for a management course, which will fetch them a job immediately, rather than start out in a way which is going to take a while to establish, and thereafter they can take it up on a larger scale. So that is my personal opinion. But that apart, I think it's a very, very new area. It's a nascent area. It's an area which needs more support from the academic as well as the industry, I would say, because you need to teach us how to take this forward. Though there are certain institutions in India as well as abroad who are trying to channelize all the hats, I would say, or channelize all the aspects which leaders really need to have, but a lot needs to be done is what I feel. There is interest, but there is a little more that we'll have to all work towards.
Great. Thank you, Chandani. We would just start with the audience Q&A that we have received. I think I will pick out a question first because you mentioned about entrepreneurship in the last question, and about social development and all of that, or looking at an entrepreneurial venture. So my question will be to Ian, that a student wants to know that as an undergraduate, how can he contribute towards an entrepreneurial venture while he's studying? Okay, so is there any support that is available, and what if he wants to diversify towards the social development, okay, entrepreneurial venture? As Dr. Chandani also mentioned, that's a very growing area.
Yeah, well, there is, and our full title is Careers and Enterprise. So, we do put a lot of emphasis onto entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial careers. And I have colleagues who work with students who are interested in starting their own business. So we have sort of Q Hack and Q Enterprise that supports students with their small ideas and helps them to grow as if it's a growable idea. As I mentioned, we also have the Hult Prize competition, which encourages students to work together on entrepreneurial ideas as well. So yeah, it's there for them.
Thank you, Jan. The next question would be to Nikhil, that what can I do if I realize that career I had chosen isn't right for me?
Okay. So guys, understand, you are not a tree, you can move. So if you think that the choice which you have made is not right or not appropriate, you can always move. I have also made a choice. So I started my journey with hotel management. So I'm a hotel management graduate, moved from hotel management to human resources MBA and moved on. So that's my journey. So I still worked with hospitality world, but I worked from an HR perspective and not from a perspective of operations. So that's a choice which you can always make.
Great. Thanks a lot, Nikhil. My next question will be to Laura. A student has asked, as students, what should we focus on? Acquiring skills through short-term courses or going for long-term specialized degree courses? Which one would you prefer?
Thank you. just having trouble getting my mute button off. I think, gosh, that's a really hard. It depends so much on the student and their objectives. I mean, I think that's the exact thing that we could have a conversation with the student, but you'd need to know a bit more about where they wanted to go, I think. Ian, I don't know if you would give a more concrete answer. I would always opt to sort of get the full information.
I think in the early stages of a career, it's probably going to be a long-term course, like a degree. But I can also see, as we go through our career, the increasing need for us to reskill ourselves. And that will probably mean that we do short courses like MOOCs. I can see mini degrees almost coming into play in a few years' time as well, because it's been alluded to through this panel that times are changing, and those changes will continue, and probably that the pace of change will continue as well. So yeah, as we go into our career, I think more short-term courses will be the way forward.
We offer quite a lot, actually.
Thank you, Jan and Laura. The next question I would ask to Pooja, as you spoke about the technical part of education. So there is a student who has mentioned that as artificial intelligence is predicted to be part of almost every field, what skills do we need to work on to be competent enough and employable in the future?
Yes, as you said, artificial intelligence is occupying a very important aspect in our lives, but human will not go away. And as human students, it is necessary that you develop your soft skills, human skills, social skills, and public speaking skills, because and one of an important aspect that is your critical thinking. Yes, we are depending on technology, but somewhere our thinking skills and our analytical skills that helps us to take decisions are an important areas that students should always focus on. So they should pick up those courses that help them to enhance these skills, that help them to work in an industry. Even when it is artificial intelligence, they need to work with someone. You need to work with a team that controls this artificial intelligence. So it is necessary that these skills are being looked at as an important aspect of value addition to their personality when students pick up. Even if it is artificial intelligence, you still need those skills in your life. So you need to work on those.
Thank you, Dr. Pooja. I'll just contribute a little to of late there has been a lot of people who have been wanting to go in for business analytics and such other things. So I think that is something that a lot of students would look at if they have a certain amount of exposure onto mathematics or onto the technology side of it. Moving quickly to the next question, it's a little tricky question that has come, and I would want Dr. Chandani to answer that, which is that as students, we feel that professors help and build the careers for us in terms of guidance. Okay. How true is that? Should we entirely depend on professors and their suggestions, or is it we should have expert guidance? Well, I think definitely your professors do have an expert guidance on that front, but I would want Dr. Chandani to answer that question.
On a lighter note, don't follow us. We definitely made mistakes. But on a serious note, the grays that we have here have come out of experience. So you can trust us a little bit. And if I have to speak from the perspective of the current scenario, we may or may not be equipped completely to handhold you. So you may reach out to people who are equipped to handhold you beyond where we are. But yeah, don't negate us. We still need to be accessible to each other. You still need to learn from us. You still need to attend our lectures. That's the baseline. But on the long shot, please take our advice, take the advice of people like Ian or Laura, because they're handling it every day. And of course, several others who will have an idea better than what we will have. because we have confined ourselves and become specialists in our field. We may or may not have the wider picture. So that would be my answer. But yes, please still attend lectures. Point blank.
I really like that answer. Thank you, Dr. Chandani, and definitely, like as part of everyday teaching, you would definitely know what exactly students should do. So students, you better follow your professors on that as well. Going on to the next question is, what, according to you, a perfect CV should have, or rather, one notion on how to make a CV attractive? Uh, May I just put that question to Nikhil?
Okay. Three traits which we look at in any CV: crisp, clear, and giving the right relevance. So I've seen fresh graduates giving a CV of 3 pages, and I was wondering about, was from where you going to get that experience to write 3 pages, because the font itself was Times New Roman 16. I said, boss, forget it. Just keep the CV towards the right. I just don't even have to look at it. So it has to be very crisp. It has to define your projects in not more than 1.5 to 2 paragraphs. One. Secondly, those with an experience can definitely talks about their experience, but it is only helps you to understand your curriculums, etc., a little better. Your job may be very, very different from what probably you have done. So be very specific on that. Keep it crisp and small and simple. And third, not under any circumstances more than 1 page.
Great. Thank you, Nikhil, for that. Anything that you want to add on to that, Jan?
The only thing I would add is results. I think recruiters are really keen to see what you've been responsible for. So, can you quantify or describe your outcomes and results?
Great. So I think that kind of completes the circle. And like Jan mentioned about results, in my mind, I resonate what Nikhil had started with about numerics and completing the entire cycle, or being quantifiable in your CV and stuff. And
That's most important. That's more. In fact, thanks,
Exactly.
Jan, for adding that pointer.
Employability quotient on that. Well, we come to an end of the panel discussion. Thank you to all panelists and students who have attended it. We have been broadcasting it over Facebook as well. So thank you for attending. And I would like to invite Andy Durbin for his closing remarks.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think all that remains to say is a huge thank you to everyone for joining today. It's been absolutely brilliant to see such a great turnout. I think close to 100 of you in the room today. Fantastic to see so many intelligent questions being asked to our panel. So thank you very much once again for joining. We hope you got out of it. We wish you all the best for your studies and your career. And if you have any follow-up questions, please do get in touch with us via our India office, which the email address is, we are just posting in the chat just now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy, and once again, thanks to all the panelists and students for your precious time. And if you have questions for us, do feel free to write back to us at our south-asia@qmul.ac.uk. Definitely, if you have questions for which we would require answers from Dr. Chandani or Dr. Pooja, happy to reach out to them as well. And yeah, just wishing you all a lovely evening and all the best for your career ahead.
May I, on behalf of HR College, thank the entire team of Queen Mary London for hosting us, having this wonderful session. I'm sure Dr. Ramchandani will agree that this was really required in the current circumstances, where students are continuously being, brainwashed with new terms, new ideologies, new concepts, and they're continuously wondering what they should do. So I think whether it's Nikhil's input, or whether it's Ian's input, or whether it's Laura's input, or even both of us, that is Dr. Ramchandani's and my input, I hope it helps the students to decide. And once again, Team Queen Mary, all the best. We're happy to reach out. Do reach out to us, and we'll see how much more we can take this forward. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you.
I think from our side as
Thank
well,
you
just as
so
a
much.
final
Thank you.
word. So thank you so much for you guys on the India side for taking time out of your very busy day today to share your incredibly useful insights. Dr. Ramchandani, Dr. Batji, and Mr. Mather from HR College and Dalmia Group respectively, and of course Laura and Ian from our Careers Directorate. So we're really appreciative of that, because we know how busy your days are at the moment and always.
Thank you so much, Andy, Jaspreet, Abhishek, Mishti, Ian, Chandni. Wonderful meeting you, interacting, and I think learning so much from each other. I mean, listening to each other, contributing, and our entire focus was that our students should get the best. And that's what we have achieved. And I think thank you to the Queen's Mary group. Would want to learn more about the charitable certificate program that Jan spoke about. A wonderful program. I think would be keen to learn more about that. I think Chandni would connect with you and would like to see more details. And in the near future, maybe more of panel discussions and classes like this, where your students and our students learn to exchange ideas between two countries. And I think blessing the COVID has been that we meet virtually and use this opportunity for both the countries and both the organizations to give the best to our students. So we would like to connect with you for taking some sessions with you on some topics, and we would connect you to take some sessions for our students on the topics like emotional intelligence that came out, or social entrepreneurship. So I would request Chandni to connect with Queen's Mary and take it further. And thank you, Abhishek, for being such a wonderful host and putting very simple questions to us. I hope we answered to the best of the students' requirements and their needs. And wonderful meeting every one of you out here. Wonderful.
Thank you, Dr. Pooja, for those kind words. In fact, we will get in touch with you and Dr. Chandani for the future partnerships, if there's any possibility, and hoping for a good and long relationship here on.
Yeah, thank you very much. Interesting learning from all of you and great inputs.
Thanks, Nikhil. You have to give me details of the new word that you recently used in the thing for me for my counseling thereafter. Vaka or something. We'll connect offline for that. There are students still here. Thank you so much for everyone. And in case you want the recording for this, please do let me know.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you,
So
everyone.
we'll take your permission to share it also on HR website, if that is fine with you all.
Yeah.
Fine with you? Thank you so
Great.
much.
Great.
Thank you, Abhishek,
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
ma'am.
Have a good day.
for hosting us. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice day, everyone.